Do it. Hello, this is the ancient, the European. This is the European history lecture for Wednesday, the 1st of September, 2021. On this date in 1939, the Polish army attacked an innocent Nazi radio station on the border, provoking World War II. The Nazis were just defending themselves against those evil Poles. Yeah, World War II did begin on this day in history. To commemorate that, actually not, there's no way of commemorating all of that, we are going to first explore the issue of why this is an honors class and not advanced placement. In future, Mr. Burfeind may do advanced placement for us. I have taught advanced placement European history since 2006. Philosophically, I am opposed to the way the AP program operates. I don't like their fashionable approach to historiography. I don't like their semi-woke approach to curriculum choice. I'm not a fan of the way AP Euro has operated. But for the sake of my students, I've done my best. I, in Maine, was a very good AP teacher, but here, not so much. I don't know why, just not so much. So this is what I do instead. First off, the biggest component of success in advanced placement, just like in anything else in life, is your personal commitment to do the work. You guys are already fully committed to a ridiculously difficult but rewarding educational experience. So maybe you're using up all your dedication there. If you want to do AP at the sophomore level, it is a challenge that you should rise to. So here's my invitation. Wednesdays, starting next week, I have a lunchtime AP seminar group. In addition to the lessons that you get from me in this honors course, you'll show up on Wednesday with your food, and we will go over lessons focused on the advanced placement approach to studying history, so that you will be prepared as individuals to take the advanced placement European history exam. I hope that you will do this. We usually have fairly small groups, and they get smaller as the year goes on, because it really is a commitment. On the other hand, having gone through the experience, you may discover that you will be better prepared for advanced placement United States history at the junior level and U.S. government and politics at the senior level. You also may find yourself a better writer and better at organizing information. Like anything else, if you challenge yourself and succeed, you're going to develop skills that you didn't have at the beginning. So, on the morning announcements, you will hear that anyone who's in European history, whether they're in Mr. Burfeind's class or mine, can join me here most Wednesdays starting next week for the AP lunchtime seminar. For the moment, I'll let you think about it. I probably will mention it again before too long. I guess the last thing before I take questions is this. The worst thing that I experienced as a charter teacher with advanced placement is students looking at me and saying, in so many words, make this happen for me. That isn't the way AP works. You have to be willing yourself to go out of your way to practice skills that you otherwise wouldn't have to practice. To expect the teacher to do it for you is just not wise. And that attitude, for some reason, was persistent in several students. They were nice people, but they just thought that since I was the AP teacher, I should make it happen for them. No. It's an arena. The AP exam is an international exam, planet-wide. Anyone who's taken the course or who's made the preparations can take it. And the goal of the exam is not to measure proficiency. It's to separate out the tippity-top 0.001% from the lumpen proletariat 0.01%. If you understand that arithmetic thing, that math thing, you'll understand what I mean. The exam is not designed to test if you have a basic working knowledge of the history of Europe and Western civilization since the end of the Middle Ages. The exam is designed to test to see if you are hyper-elite within this understanding or simply elite. So Bear that in mind. Bless you.
Okay.
It's highly competitive. And that's why, as an individual, you need to decide to do this and to commit yourself to it if you so desire, if you so wish. Questions, comments, thoughts? Miss Velasco. Oh, we have a moment of silence. Yes. Rick.
Do we have to come every Wednesday, or can it just be like?
It'll be most Wednesdays. And yeah.
Do we have to, or can we choose what Wednesdays we want?
No. That what you're asking in essence, is can I do it half-hearted and part-time?
Yeah.
No. No, you can't. And the reason is this. Look, if you want to talk to Mr. Weatherly about taking the AP exam without doing my preparation, he may let you. But you'll probably crash and burn. Not because you're stupid, because you're not. Not because you're a bad history student, because you're not a bad history student. I know that. You'll crash and burn because there are very specific things that they want to test you on. And those things are skills within the history discipline that have to be taught. They're not things I usually teach because I think they're a distraction. That's, again, philosophically, I'm somewhat different from the AP people. So unless you're able to absorb all of that weird arcane knowledge by osmosis, it's going to be really hard. So I would say, yes, we meet most Wednesdays, and in April we meet Wednesdays and often on Tuesdays or Thursdays as well, because that's right before the exam. But the goal is to prepare you. That's what it is. So you definitely think about it. Yes?
How does the AP test get put into our grades?
It's not in your grade. It's not part of your GPA. What you can use the advanced placement exam for is to qualify out of taking an introductory level college history course.
Gotcha.
It is also, which can save you money. You can earn generic college credit without having to pay anything. And so AP is useful. Also, AP is useful when applying to certain competitive colleges because it demonstrates your willingness to take on additional challenges and your ability to succeed at them, presuming you do well. I happen to take AP English and AP American History, and I scored 5 on both of them, and it really helped me get into a good school. So
5 is a good grade.
5 is, it's scored 1 to 5. Just shout it out. But yeah. 1 is you showed up and you basically on the paper. 5 is you did it's the best grade. So a 3 is sort of mid-range, and you want to get more than a 2. Yes, Portia.
So what, like, as an example, what would you be, like, preparing us, or how would you prepare us on, like,
well, you would have additional readings to do, additional document analysis. You would learn a bit about historians and the controversies that we have among ourselves. For example, okay, the Goldhagen hypothesis. Talk about an arcane, jargony term. The Goldhagen hypothesis, like everyone here should know what it is. Goldhagen was a historian around the turn of the 21st century who wrote a book called Hitler's Willing Executioners. And his thesis was that it wasn't simply the SS in the camps or the Einsatzkommandos that went around Eastern Europe murdering people that were responsible for the atrocities. That every German man, woman, or child who looked away, who would not appreciate what evil was being done in their name, who tried to make believe it didn't exist, that all of them were complicit in Hitler's crimes. That's controversial. Many German historians took issue with that and said, you're blaming an entire nation of people. So you have a baker or a candlestick maker who discerns that the Nazis are engaged in mass murder. In Hitler's state, what are you going to do about it? To speak up is to make yourself a target. Not just of being yelled at by a bunch of woke students, but of being taken away by the SS to a camp yourself, or just killed outright. So there's an example of a historical controversy. And in AP, we're going to try to deal with a little of that as well. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. There's also a particular kind of essay called the document-based question, which is a art form that I partially prepare you for with my structured essays. But it is its own beast. Any other questions? Really, you should come Wednesday next week if you're curious. And at that point, by the time you're done, you'll know whether you want to be a part of it or not. Okay. For now, I want to show you something that most of you should already have done, but some of you may not have yet. Would you shut the right light switch off, please? Thank you. I have sent each of you who are signed up to my class an invitation to join my Google Classroom. Google Classroom, I love saying the word Google, is an online network that we can use to help each other communicate. So, you will have received an email from me that invites you to use this code to join this class. When you do that, I'll then invite your parents or guardians by their email. Different teachers use this different ways. This is the page that you will begin with when you open up the Google Classroom. It is the stream page. It's basically the weblog page. And like many weblogs, oldest is lowest. So let's take a look and see what is here already for your use. There's already quite a bit. And by next Tuesday, well, I will expect you to have familiarized yourself with this. Just familiarized yourself, you know. Looked it over, had a sense of what's here, where it is, where you can find it, and so forth. So, the very first message I sent out reads, and I'm not going to read all of these. Welcome. Here are your electronic copies of the paperwork packets and information that you should be receiving on or around opening day. Keep them, use them, you'll need them. So, I'm going to turn on the AC. It's on hot. The various piles of paper that you have here are all there in electronic form, both in Microsoft Word format and in PDF format. So, whichever system works better for you. Now, I don't understand how this happens. My former understanding was that Word could be easily morphed by whatever system you're using to open up a Word document. I had believed before last year that PDF files were pretty stable. In other words, that the formatting that I did would remain. No, apparently not. So do your best, but you have paper versions because it's nice to have paper. A trees are a crop. You can grow more. You just plant more. And because it might be useful, you can have it in Word or PDF form. So, all of your basic paperwork is there. That's not all. Also, there is the opening video, which I sent out. And I asked for people to give a quick response. It looks like 16 people made a simple response saying, I saw it, or I watched it, or whatever. The reason I'm going to grade this as a homework assignment, making a simple comment, right down here where it says, is because I want an absolute positive assurance that you are part of my Google Classroom and that you know how to open things up like videos. So you will, like Amanda, write something like watched it, and that's fine, and you'll get an A+ on a homework assignment. Simple. Okay, the third thing. Here we have Unit 13's questions. Then Unit 14's questions. Unit 15's questions. And so on and so forth, all the way up to Unit 29. I call this your Baker work. Please take your syllabus out, which is a big packet here that says syllabus on it. Your syllabus packet says that your chapter survey 12, is due this coming Tuesday. So it is due in 6 days, a week from yesterday. I listed on your syllabus as chapter survey 12, Baker. Now, I call it Baker because this workbook is to accompany an earlier version of Spielvogel, your textbook. Spielvogel Baker. What you will do for a chapter survey is you will go through the Baker pages. Now, because now I didn't expect all of you to have your computer Google Classroom set up and running, I made a paper copy of Unit 12. However, there are apparently some typos and formatting errors in it, so it's good that you have the electronic version, which I'll show you in a little while. Please take out these sheets and your chapter survey, which is the single sheet. You'll need those sheets, which you have right there, and the chapter survey. You're going to be going back and forth, so you may want to take them out. Okay. These sheets are copied from the Baker. By the way, I bought a complete set of classroom copies. I am using them for school use. I am legally allowed to use these copies with my students because I paid the price up front for the workbooks. I just don't distribute them. Okay. Let's start on your worksheet. Most of you know this, but some of you don't, so I'm spending time teaching it to those of you who don't. You will see, just above where it says Chapter Survey, Mr. Tenorio, you will see your name. I want your Christian name and your family name. In other words, I want your first name and your last name. That's an old-timey way of saying it. So, if you simply go by Joe, I don't want to see Joe, because you're not the only Joe. Also, it's formal work. I take 5 percentage points off the top for anyone who does not put their first and last names. It's a small thing, but I make a big deal about it because it's basically, it's good form. The date you're working on it, and class period 3. And you are in class period 3. So you would write 3 next to here. Then you would see chapter number. In this case, you might as well write in chapter 12. So let's look at chapter 12. What is chapter 12 all about? Well, on the handout that I gave you, you see a cover sheet with bibliographical information. And then flip it. The staple ended up in a weird spot. You see a preface that goes a page and a quarter or a page and a third. Read that or not if you like. Next page. Next page is Chapter 12, Recovery and Rebirth, the Age of the Renaissance. Recovery and Rebirth, the Age of the Renaissance. Most people call it the Renaissance, but I like to have fun with words, and Renaissance is an acceptable alternative pronunciation. So, the Age of the Renaissance, which is the rebirth of the ancient Greco-Roman knowledge in a Christian context. Here is an outline of the chapter as written. If you look at the chapter in your textbook, you'll see this outline. Next page. After that, you see a chapter summary. Now, this can be helpful in discovering what is typically thought important in this chapter. So, in 3 short paragraphs, Mr. Baker summarizes what Mr. Spielvogel took a chapter of 30-odd pages to write about. You will then see 5 learning objectives and 5, or actually 10, names and terms in a glossary of names and terms. Those are all optional. Use them or not as you like. But now we come on the right side of the 118th page, match the following words with their definitions. Now you will note on your sheet, there is section 5, Roman numeral 5, matching 1 through 10. It's almost as if you should put the answers on those little lines. So let's look and see if I can figure these out just... Okay, let's see. Let's do number 2, Machiavelli. So, for number 2, we look down the A alpha through J Juliet, and let's see if we can find a good description of Machiavelli. Does anyone wish to guess which letter Machiavelli would be? Mr. Lambert.
I don't know if it's right, but I think it's I.
I, as in India, is correct. The answer is author of the realistic Renaissance treatise on politics. Treatise is an essay. So for number 2, you would put a capital I. Always use capital letters, even if they give you lowercase letters to choose from, like they do in multiple choice. Always use capital letters. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Lowercase letters are easily misunderstood. You could have an E, a C, or several other roundy letters. It could be anything. My standard is simple. If it's not absolutely unambiguously clear, it's wrong. So, if it's not clear, it's wrong. Write it in a capital letter form so that I can comprehend what it is you are answering. We often have tests in here where I have you correct each other's work. As you correct each other's work, if you say, Mr. Tenorio, I don't understand what this is, I'll say, well, if it's not obvious, it's wrong. That's what it is. It's not an A, it's not a G, it's wrong. So, to avoid that annoyance, just use capital letters. Clear capital letters all the time. So, number 2 next to matching should be I, as in India. Then below that, you will see section 6, multiple choice. And you will see the first multiple choice at the bottom of the matching, and for the next page or 2. You do these, again, by picking the best answer and writing the capital letter that describes it. So, there are 20 multiple choice questions per chapter. You do all 20 in the spaces provided. Questions so far? I know this is as fun as watching paint dry. But it's necessary for us to have ground rules that we all understand so that you don't have to worry about it in future. After the multiple choices, so we're on the next page. We're on the page that has complete the following sentences. Years ago, when I first started using this method, I had people do that. However, students and I quickly realized that it was stupid. S-T-O-O-P-I-D, stupid. I rarely use that term, but no, this section's nonsense, so we don't do it. Next page. I used to have people do the finding of dates and placing things in order. I don't do that anymore just because I decided it wasn't essential. But now, we come to 8 questions for critical thought and 8 analyzing primary source documents. And as you can see there, the second page has its format messed with, which is why I put them online. And the format's not messed up online. At least I don't think so. So, what do we do with these? Well, you ignore the rest of the front page, flip it over to the back page. And on the back page, you will see places for 2 essay answers. A long essay and a short essay. Now, you get to choose any of the 16 essays for your long essay and any other of the 16 essays for your short essay. But, you might ask, why? ¿Por qué? Why is there all this stuff here? Shouldn't an essay be open so that I can be free and clear to express my inner selfness? No! This is not literature. You are not writing poetry. This is not about self-expression. Exactly. Any good history lesson, or lecture, any good history essay has 4 components to it. Thesis, rationale, evidence, significance. These are structured essays. If you learn my format of writing structured essays, you will have a skill that will hold you in good stead in many essay writing situations in the future. It's a good way to organize information. In the long essay, you will go into more detail than the short essay. Thesis, a summary of what you're arguing. Rationale, a more detailed argument, arguing your point of view. Evidence, the evidence that you're using that supports or refutes your point of view. And finally, significance, why it matters. Here's how I would do it. Let's see. Does somebody wish to suggest an essay to me that I can use as an example right now?
7.
Okay. Mr. Lambert?
First one.
First one, let's see if I feel like doing it. As applied to the early modern period of Western civilization, what does the term Renaissance mean? What areas of life did it affect most? Okay, yeah, we'll try that. So, I don't start with thesis unless I have a strong impulse of what I want to say. If the question makes me annoyed or I really have something to express, like, tell me the benefits of communism, and I will say none. But I'll lay out its evils. That's fine. I can do that. But normally what I recommend to you is that you start with evidence and rationale. So, what are some evidences about the Renaissance? First of all, in general terms, and evidence can be in bullet points. It doesn't have to be in prose. So, bullet point. Reintroducing pagan Greco-Roman knowledge. That's what I would write first. You can write this. I'm doing this with you. I'm helping you do part of your chapter, Survey 12. So under long essay, you would write bullet point, return or rediscovery of pagan Greek and Roman writings. Rediscovery of pagan Greek and Roman writings. That's first bullet point.
What?
The rediscovery of pagan Greek and Roman writings.
That's an evidence, right?
That's in evidence. That's the first bullet point under evidence. Now, what I might do there in addition is, and I'm not going to detail this. I can talk about the fact that sculptors like Michelangelo, painters like Leonardo da Vinci, had access to books and diagrams that had not been available in Europe for 1,000 years. That there were writers that were able to read the works of Ovid and Livy and Tacitus and Suetonius and Virgil and, mouthy, flowery coward, Cicero. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Cicero, Cicero. And these writings express ideas that Christian medieval Europe did not. So I would list a few examples of the ancient writings that were influencing, or of the ancient knowledge. Like I put bullet point. Michelangelo had access to Greek sculpture in a way that wasn't typical for the 1,000 years before. Another bullet point. Machiavelli had access to Suetonius and Tacitus and other Roman history writers that people had not had for about 1,000 years.
What did Michelangelo?
Michelangelo had access to Greek sculpture and Roman sculpture. Machiavelli, there's a fun word to spell.
Yeah.
I just wrote
Yeah, but if you look in there, it's a name.
Yeah.
It's a name. See, this is improvise, adapt, overcome. In the naming matching section, you will see Mr. Machiavelli in the second thing. Machiavelli. Machiavelli.
Really?
Yeah.
Why isn't it Machiavelli?
Machiavelli. Because we speak Italian.
No, we don't.
Yes. When we speak an Italian's name, we speak the Italian pronunciation to an extent. Machiavelli.
That's like not saying
Listen, the last show.
Excuse me?
It's a question of knowing the lingo and cover your orifices.
I'm a Mexican.
Thank you.
I was racist, bro.
Yes, there you go. You were raised a poor Mexican child. I get it. I understand.
How much is that?
God.
Hey, I'm not.
So, but you're not racist. You're definitely not racist. This you're not. Never mind. I could go deep in. Yeah, right. Yeah, black people can't be racist. Lesbians can't be sexist. Yeah, I get the whole thing. It's lies, but I get it. I also apparently can't drink safely. So, in the evidence section, you would say Machiavelli has access to Tacitus and other Roman historians.
To who?
Tacitus. Tacitus. Tacitus.
Oh, these new cockatoos.
And as you do research, you will find other examples of ancient writings and ancient knowledge that is being utilized by people in the Renaissance. So that's your type of evidence, how the old knowledge is being revitalized. But it's being revitalized not in a pagan society, but in a Christian society. 1,000 years later, a Christian society not centered on the Mediterranean, but centered in Northern Europe. So here's what you would say for rationale. The Renaissance, and you can write this if you wish, the Renaissance involves the rediscovery of pagan writings. The Renaissance involves the rediscovery of pagan writings from ancient Greece and Rome. The Renaissance involves the rediscovery of pagan writings from ancient Greece and Rome. Period. 1,000 years later, 1,000 years later, 1,000 years later, the Renaissance involves the rediscovery of ancient writings from ancient Greece and Rome. 1,000 years later, Christians of a different society, 1,000 years later, 1,000 years later, Christians of a different society fold or combine ancient ideas. 1,000 years later, Christians writers of a different society combine ancient ideas with those prominent in their time and place. They combine ancient ideas with those ideas prominent in their time and place. They combine the ideas from ancient Greece and Rome with those ideas prominent in their time and place. Now that is a quick and dirty rationale for explaining what the Renaissance is. Let me remind myself of the question. As applied to what does the term Renaissance mean? What areas of life does it affect most? So you could argue that by affecting ideas, it ultimately affected every aspect of life, because ideas reshape how we live our daily lives. By affecting, by changing ideas, ultimately Renaissance notions affect every aspect of life, because ideas reshape how people live their lives. What's the middle part again?
Yeah, middle part.
Okay. Because Renaissance, because this involves a change in ideas, it ultimately is going to change all aspects of life, because ideas reshape how we do things in our daily lives. Now, if I had had time to prepare that, I could have come up with something far more eloquent. I certainly expect that you all can come up with things that are far more eloquent. But you see how I am answering the question. I have evidences below, and there's more evidence than what I gave you. I have a rationale that what typifies the Renaissance is the introduction of Greek and Roman ideas into a new Christian context. And that is going to change everything. It's like you have peanut butter, right? And then somebody drops a chocolate candy bar into it. And then you've got something new. You've got chocolate and peanut butter. You've got a Reese's peanut butter cup. Or you've got some copper. And then some guy comes along and dumps molten tin into your copper. And you've got an alloy, which is called bronze. Right. In the case of the pagan ideas from ancient Greece and Rome, as they reform and resurface in a Christian world that's very different, the ancient ideas are not going to remain the same. They're going to be adapted to the Christian society, and the Christian society is going to change from a medieval into a much more modern society because of these ideas. So, how do we summarize that in thesis form? Does anyone wish to offer a suggestion? A simple one-phrase, one-sentence headline to your essay. I see no one raising their hand. Fine. No, Sam doesn't have it. Haley, you aren't either. You're just babbling again. The headline would be this: Renaissance is an alloy of ancient and medieval society, producing something new. Renaissance is an alloy, A-L-L-O-Y, of ancient and medieval society, comma, creating something new. Renaissance is an alloy of ancient and medieval society, comma, creating something new. So do any of you not comprehend how I have gotten those three things in your essay? It looks like all of you understand what's going on. If not, you should come talk to me unless you want to ask me a question now. Now, significance should be the most fun because it allows you the most creativity and judgment. All of this really is about judgment. History involves facts, but we don't live in a world of facts. We live in a world of meaning, and meaning is always a product of subjective interpretation. So, significance. Who cares about Renaissance? Why does it matter? Well, here, you have an opportunity to talk about what is important about this, what is timelessly important about this. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to go into detail about this right now because I am so angry that I can't be trusted to speak rationally. I supported the war in Afghanistan. I consider President Biden's choice to abandon it to be wrong. However, he seems to have won the election. So, since he seems to have won the election, I guess he gets to make the decision. Fine. But the way it was done is criminal, in my judgment. I've studied history. Things like this have been done before. It's not very hard. How on earth we get to a point where thousands of Americans are still in Afghanistan with no hope of American help to get rescued is beyond me. It is a level of incompetence that I just don't understand. The only things I can compare it to, in 1961, John Kennedy launched an invasion of communist Cuba at the Bay of Pigs, and it was a disaster. And in 1983, President Reagan, my favorite American president, sent American Marines to occupy Beirut, Lebanon, as part of the Mideast crisis. And a number of them, 280, were killed when a car bomb blew up the hotel they were in. And then we left. I can understand how people can screw up. But evacuating people, this is something our military has done. I don't understand it. So, in Afghanistan, what we tried to do was introduce Western ideas of democracy and human rights and women's rights and secularism into a society that is barely medieval, that is largely still tribal or ancient. Afghanistan is not called the graveyard of empires for nothing. The Afghanis don't change. The Pashtun have their ways, and their ways go back 3,000 or 4,000 years. People come in, they stay for a while, they get beaten up, and they leave. That's what happens. But what we were trying to do was introduce new ideas into their society. Not many of them really took. The question of introducing ideas into a new context is something that is very much alive and well today. And that's what happened in the Renaissance. It simply was not from another country. These ideas were from the same land 1,000, 1,500 years before. Did that make any sense? You have to find meaning in this and find a way of explaining what matters about it. To you, logically. This is your judgment that I am looking for. And this is your chance to interpret. Haley, you've got 20 seconds. Be quick.
Okay, so I just don't understand how we can take over 22,000 Afghanis, bring them to Spokane, and leave our own American people.
I think that the Afghanis should have been brought. I knew people who escaped South Vietnam after we allowed the communists to win there, and they didn't experience anything happy. It's just our own people should have been brought out too.
Yeah.
And we should never have given up Bagram Air Force Base. And there are all sorts of... I could go into it for hours. I won't. Not now. Not now. Okay, so is there any mystery left to this essay system? The short essay is the same format, simply briefer. I see no questions. I see no questions. I see no questions. Okay, now we go back to the first page. Document analysis. Document analysis. Now, in chapter 12, you will encounter an opposed views page. Oh, opposed views. What chapter are we in? That's possible. I think this is chapter 12. If this is Machiavelli, it is. It is! Talk about the random factors aligning in my favor. Okay, here in Spielvogel, we have, you can turn on the light again, please. Thank you. We have normal colored white pages. Apparently there's a stain here, but we have normally colored white pages. But here we have the opposed viewpoints page, which is pink. It's a pink page, a page of pink. And on this page are two primary source documents translated into contemporary English. Most of you know this. Now these documents are relics from another time, translated into our language, but for the purpose of revealing some things about the way they thought and did things. But on the opposed views page, these are two documents on the same topic. So, for example, we have the ultimate pragmatist and practitioner of realpolitik, a guy named Machiavelli, who we'll talk more about. And he's writing about how it's better to be feared than loved if you're a leader, and how you have to be willing to use whatever means to control things, but don't be hated. And on the other hand, we got Desiderius Erasmus, father of Northern humanism, who writes that a Christian prince should rule in a Christian way, that a prince is a job given by God to serve the people and to bring the society more in line with Christian notions of virtue. That a Christian prince should practice mercy, for example, whereas Machiavelli is not going to be an advocate of mercy. So both of these documents are about politics, yes? About politics. But they come at it from very different sides. So, in the document section on the first page of your chapter survey, you will see first document on the left, that's Machiavelli. Second document on the right, that's Erasmus. 4 sections: context, content, vocabulary, and critique. You will research the context. Who's the author? When and where was it written? What is the author advocating and opposing? That's bias. Who is the audience that the author is writing to? Is it to common everyday people? Is it to guildsmen or warriors or churchmen or the king? Who is the audience? And why are they writing what they're writing? They're sitting down with a purpose in mind. What is that purpose? That's all context, and you can list that or you can include it in the space provided. Content is a restatement of these ideas in your own words, placing Machiavelli, summarizing Machiavelli and Erasmus in the space provided. Vocabulary. You may have a fantabulous supercalifragilisticexpialidocious vocabulary. However, I want you to find 2 words that are unusual to you or interesting to you. Write them down. They could be proper names. Write them down and give a phrase-long description of what they are. For every document you do, there are 2 vocabulary words. Critique, again, is a place for you to shine as an individual by basically saying why you agree or disagree with the idea, what significance does it have to the broader human history of humanity, and so forth. Again, you are interpreting it using your judgment and your system of values. Why or why not do you agree with Machiavelli, or why not do you agree with Erasmus? Now, I'll take questions in a moment. The third document you see below is formatted slightly differently, but it asks the same thing. There's vocabulary above, then context, content, critique. Sometimes there are 3 opposed views documents, in which case do all 3. Sometimes there are 4, in which case pick your 3. However, when there are only 2 opposed views documents, find another document. In the rest of the chapter, documents are set out by this parchment-colored paper. Find a document that interests you in the chapter. There are several documents per chapter for you to choose between. Find which one interests you and do the same kind of analysis to it. Context, content, vocabulary, critique. That is how you do a chapter survey for me. You will find, if you are not familiar with my system, it will take you between 5 and 6 hours to do this. You have about one per week. You have one due in, again, just about 6 days. However, you can help one another as long as your work is authentically your own, as long as you write things in your own words. Also, once you get used to it, and I think the people who I've had before can attest to this, it takes less than 5 to 6 hours. It takes between 3 and 4.5 hours per week to do one of these. Now, you may shake your head, Miss Haley, but in general terms, it does take less time. So, any questions about chapter surveys, how to do them? Because you have one due next week, and you've just gotten my introduction to them and how to do them. Alashka, Miss.
When are we going to be getting our topics for case studies?
The case studies are once per semester, and we'll be choosing them sometime within the next few weeks, but I don't know exactly when. Shaughnessy?
So there's no way that we could choose topics early and get started on it?
Oh, I know I'm not ready to take them yet. When I do become ready, and if you have something in mind, I'll let you know. I will. Sir?
And we are doing the full format for the case study.
We're doing the format that I'm handing out this year, which is a modification of what we've done in the past. But no, I don't want to talk about case studies today. Ben? Sam?
Oh.
I know it's Sam! I'm sorry!
No, okay, so was the essay that you gave us, is that considered like enough, like to get an A on it? Or is that...
Well, I'd like more evidence,
All right.
and I'd like you to do significance. But yeah, I would like a little more in general, but what I was trying to do was sketch out. So yeah, use that as a basis for yours, as a basis. Yes?
When is this due again?
It's due Tuesday by 3 p.m. Into the shelf. Yes? Oh, you didn't see your hand. Yes?
The essay and presentation are voluntary.
Yeah, I'll go over that when I talk about the case study. Yes?
Oh, sure.
Okay, good. So now we go back to the syllabus. Please look on your syllabus now. The syllabus shows you what is due week by week. I only do weekly assignments. I do not do daily assignments. It's up to you to decide when and how. If I was you, I'd get ahead on my homework sooner than later. You will see that Tuesday coming up, you have to sign, and your parents have to sign, the class policies sheet. So go to the third page in this packet, and you will see the beginning of my class policies packet, which is a warning label. Warning! We're going to discuss issues that are going to make you upset. We're going to discuss politics and religion, right and wrong. I am a conservative. I am a Republican. I am a lousy Christian, but I am a Christian. And I have traditional notions about life, the universe, and everything. I'm going to share them with you, my beliefs. Not as facts, but as opinions. Why? Because I want you to share your beliefs. And if your beliefs are woker than Wokey Wokenstein, great. I will respect, even if I don't agree with your views. Because in America, everyone has the right to be wrong. I use that right frequently. Some of you will too. When we talk about what's worth living for, dying for, or killing for, we're going to talk about things that are not easy to disagree about. So I hope that in the case of those of you who've had me before, I have earned your trust as somebody that you can reveal ideas about. And if you haven't, wait, I hope to earn it. The sheet at the bottom of the warning label needs to be signed and dated by your parents and you, and the movie policy needs to be initialed. Thank you. Come again. We'll continue with this tomorrow.
So, question, Maria. For chapter